Next coming up on stage is an absolute honor to present this next young man who is a dear friend, a dear colleague, a buddy like no other to me, an uncle, a big brother, everything rolled into one, who happens to be, let me make sure I get this right, who happens to be Dr. Zhang's former mentor and long-term colleague and a world pioneer in male fertility. Fresh off his visit from being the first Jewish individual to be inducted to the Middle East Hall of Fame, Dr. Sherman Silber.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's what I wanted to mention. I can't mention that? You know, when John was first just a fellow, and I would give my talks about male infertility, I like to give the examples about sperm competition. You know, gorillas are huge, massive animals that have little tiny testicles and tiny little penis. And chimpanzees that are only maybe 100 pounds have these enormous grapefruit-sized testicles. And I gave that as an example that chimpanzees have a huge amount of sperm competition in their culture. And gorillas have just one or two female mates, and if she's going to get pregnant, it's only going to be with his sperm. So our studies on the Y chromosome demonstrated that there is an inevitable and inexorable decline in spermatogenesis genes over the eons, over the millennia, that will always occur in men because of the instability of the Y chromosome. And that is overcome in chimpanzees by the sperm competition, so only the chimpanzee with the highest sperm count has a baby, and so those male offspring are more likely to have big testicles. So John and I had this immediate connection with each other when I gave these lectures. Many people missed them, but he came to all of my talks. We shared so many ideas. We were talking about minimal stimulation even before we had learned from the master, Dr. Kato, about minimal stimulation. We had all kinds of discussions. We were trying to figure out what is it that brings us together. And we decided that the Jews and the Chinese have always had an extremely close relationship. I mean, really, the Chinese in Shanghai saved so many Jews from death during World War II, aided actually by the Japanese. There was a Japanese ambassador, as well as the Chinese in Shanghai, that saved all the Jews. And the Jews and the Chinese have a close relationship. And everybody thinks it's because there's such intelligence in Chinese and in Jews. But John and I decided maybe it's because we have small testicles. But just no sperm competition. But I would like to say that we have really great goals that go beyond, that just go beyond just being physicians taking care of patients. Our goals at New Hope are the goals that Dr. Kato and Dr. Kuyama, oh, I'm sorry. Our goals are, I wasn't into the microphone. Our goals are similar to Dr. Kuyama's and Dr. Kato's, not just to take care of a group of patients well, but to really change the world. Our goals are easy stimulation for the patients so they don't go through the misery that IVF patients often have to go through. I think we're accomplishing that. John has done something that I can't imagine anybody else doing, spent a fortune on having a randomized controlled trial performed under the careful supervision of the Europeans and the University of Amsterdam, which are the experts on this, to make sure that the study was done exactly right. But he had to spend the money on this because it can't be randomized if the patients have to pay. And nobody has ever had the courage to spend that kind of money to find out, are we on the right track or are we on the wrong track? And what we're finding out is we are on the right track. With minimal stimulation, we're getting more people pregnant at lower cost, with easier times, and more importantly, even than that, we have a method now for getting women who are 47 and 48 years old pregnant with their own eggs by getting the highest quality of eggs possible and then being able to vitrify them with Dr. Kuyama's technique so that we can store them up. We don't even have to worry about transferring them until we've stored up enough embryos that we feel comfortable beginning the transfer process. So that's one big goal, is to just continue to further the advancement so that even older women can have children, and it won't cost them a fortune to do it. Our advances in male infertility, I'm proud to say, are really pretty amazing. We can take Klinefelter's patients, Turner, and we have mosaic Turners, XO, XY patients, where if they're making just a few sperm in the testes, we will find that sperm without damaging the testicles at all. And we can freeze the sperm successfully for future cycles, and if we run out, we can still do another procedure because we will not have done any damage to the testicles with our microsurgery. And furthermore, we're preserving the fertility of young women and cancer patients, freezing their ovaries and freezing their eggs so that they can have babies, so that when they're 40 or 45, they don't have to go through maybe 5 or 6 cycles to store up embryos, but they'll have 25-year-old eggs when they're 40 and decide to have children. So in summary, society is making a huge advance and a change. Women are able to advance themselves with higher degrees, starting companies, jobs, careers, waiting until they find the right man, not just getting married too young with the wrong person. Women have this freedom now to delay childbearing, and to live to 100, which is a great part of modern life. But the price they used to pay for that is not being able to have children. And with what we're trying to do in New Hope is allow these women to be able to have children despite these changes in the modern world. And I just want to close by saying, without John's, he was like my student, but he was the guy that always inspired me to keep on moving forward. Can you imagine a young guy like this, and he's pushing an experienced guy like me, pushing me to do bigger and better things. So I'm really grateful to John. But I'd like to say that, and we're passing out the champagne for a toast, but I'd also like to say we owe an amazing debt of gratitude. John's mother, I've done a lot of microsurgery, maybe more than anybody else in the world except for John's mother. The only person who's done more microsurgery than me is John's mother. She's an inspiration to me. And Dr. Kuyama, Dr. Kato, Dr. Fumihito, Kiichi Kato, Dr. Takahara. When you mention your names in trouble, because you may forget a few names, the first person that greeted me in Japan, of course, was our friend. It described to me when I was first going to be picked up in Japan, I didn't know who I was going to be picked up by, and the secretaries at the Kato Clinic said, "Oh, just look for this Japanese gentleman that has a very kindly face." And that was Tadashi. So I just want to say thank you, and to Louis, who had the first egg freezing pregnancy in Mexico. So to our whole family of friends, we owe a tremendous amount, and John and I are very grateful for all the help and all the guidance you've given us. We couldn't have done it without your intellectual guidance and ideas. But without John's energy, none of this would have happened. John is the person who is spreading these new ideas started by Dr. Kato and Dr. Kuyama around the world, and I'm just happy to be part of John's movement.